Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're on a pretty critical mission, I think. We are going to crack the code on the quality practice in PRINCE2 Agile. So if you're, deep in the trenches getting ready for the practitioner exam, you already know Chapter 9 is just non-negotiable. This deep dive is really designed to be your complete walkthrough, your analysis. We're going to move past just the definitions to really understand the application of every key management product, every artifact, and the tailoring guidance you need from the syllabus, specifically 2.1.8 and 2.1.9. Let's, for a second, stop treating quality like it's a boring compliance exercise. It's not.
It's the engine room.
Exactly. In the Prince2 Agile world, quality isn't just asking, does it work? It's asking what is actually acceptable to the users, and how can we measure that consistently, even when the scope is constantly shifting?
And that framing is so important. The practitioner level, it demands that you don't just know the tools like, the definition of ready and the definition of done. You have to be able to analyze how tailoring those tools ensures you have continuous quality control and that it all aligns back to the business case.
So we're looking for viable, repeatable, fit-for-purpose quality.
Exactly. And your ability to analyze the effectiveness of a quality approach, which is that higher level assessment 2.1.9, it all hinges on understanding that balance, the balance between fixed governance standards and the necessary flexibility for the Agile team.
Okay, so let's jump right in with the artifacts that the team feels on the ground floor. The quality gatekeepers. These are the tools that really set the rhythm of the work. They define precisely when a team can accept a piece of work and when they can call it finished. So let's start with the definition of ready, the door. This is basically the checklist a piece of work has to meet before the team even starts on it. Why is this first gate so critical?
Well, because the door prevents preventable waste. It's as simple as that. Think of it as a quality check on the input.
So you don't start on something that's half-baked.
Right. If you start work on an item that isn't clear, what happens? The team stops, they query, they rework, they get delayed. A strong door makes sure you have clear, testable requirements. It ensures your acceptance criteria are explicitly defined, all the resources you need are available, and critically, the team confirms they're actually ready. If you skip door, you've basically just invited chaos to the party.
But the real discussion, it seems, always centers on the definition of done, the DoD. This is where we say a task is unequivocally complete, and the source material is very clear. There is no almost done. But I have to ask, if we're iterating so fast, doesn't DoD risk becoming a stick to beat the team with, demanding too much perfection too early?
That's a great question, and it's a common concern. But actually, the DoD is an essential piece of governance. It's the definition of the expected quality baseline for what you're delivering. It has to include checks that go way beyond just, is it functional? We're talking about things like, is the code completed and peer-reviewed? Does it pass all the acceptance tests? Is the documentation updated?
And what about the non-functional stuff, like performance or security?
Absolutely. Those have to be in there. It forces quality to be built in from the start, not, deferred until it's a huge problem.
Okay, so if DoD defines the required quality level, that leads us straight into Moscow prioritization, because this tool tells us how much quality, or really how much scope we can actually deliver.
Yes, Moscow is the essential lens for communicating all of those quality trade-offs. We break items into 4 categories.
Right, the must-haves.
The non-negotiable essentials.
Yeah.
Then the should-haves, which are important, but you could defer them.
Then the could-haves, the nice-to-haves.
The optional extras. And finally, the won't-haves, things that are explicitly out of scope for right now.
And here's the key bit for the practitioner exam, I think. Moscow links directly back to that idea of continued business justification. If your justification relies on time and cost being fixed, then scope flexibility is how you absorb risk. Precisely. If we get pressed for time, we don't just reduce the quality of a must-have that would violate the definition of done.
Right.
Instead, we flex the scope. We defer a should-have or we drop a could-have. Moscow is the tool that ensures that when we have to be flexible, the quality of the minimum viable product, the must-haves, is never, ever compromised.
So that sets the foundation for the team. Now let's transition up to mission control. How do the formal PRINCE2 management products handle quality, and how do we adapt them for Agile? The core document here is the quality management approach, the QMA. This sets the whole framework, the techniques, standards, responsibilities. What's the key rule for tailoring this on an Agile project?
Well, the QMA has to explicitly define the Agile ways of working you're adopting. So if the teams are using, say, continuous integration or specific automated testing suites, that has to be documented in the QMA. It provides the governance around the flexible methods.
Exactly. And this is critical. This document must be baselined at the end of the initiation stage.
Why is that baselining point so important?
Because without that baseline, the project board can't confirm they have an acceptable approach to quality before they commit all those resources to the delivery stages. It's their assurance. It tells them the project manager has actually thought through how to blend Prince2's quality governance with the team's agile methodology. If the QMA isn't agreed, you really shouldn't proceed.
Okay. Moving on to tracking, and this is an area that I know causes a lot of confusion. We need to clarify the difference between the quality register and the product register. They both track quality, but they track totally different things.
They do, but it's simple if you just think about their function. The quality register is the tracker for the review process itself.
The act.
The activity, exactly. It summarizes all quality management activities planned and performed. Did the review happen? Who did it? What method was used? And what was the result? Pass or fail. It's tracking the health of your quality activities.
So if I want a log of every quality check, every user test, every audit we ran, and whether they passed, I look at the quality register.
That's it. Conversely, the product register lists all the products. So management products like the QMA or the specialist products like a new software feature. It tracks the status of the product itself as it moves towards completion and sign-off. If you want to know the status of the new customer portal, you look at the product register.
But if I want to know if that portal passed its beta test.
You check the quality register. You've got it.
Okay, now for the areas that I think really show a deep understanding of quality, the advanced techniques that ensure the long-term health of the product.
Right. And here we have to discuss refactoring and technical debt. Refactoring is just the practice of continuous code improvement. You're changing the internal structure to make it cleaner, easier to maintain.
Without altering its external behavior.
That's the key. It's proactive quality management.
So refactoring is the good maintenance. Technical debt is the consequence of not doing that maintenance, right? It's all the work needed to fix poor design or development choices that have piled up. We all know technical debt is bad, but when does it stop being just a team issue and become a management issue that needs intervention?
That is the high-stakes moment in Prince2 Agile. Technical debt, if you leave it unaddressed, it erodes quality, it increases risk, and the moment that debt is forecast to become too significant, so it's going to exceed the quality tolerances you set for the project, it has to be reported formally.
And how is that formal report made?
Through an exception report. It goes to the appropriate management level, which is usually the project board. This forces a formal documented decision. The board then has to decide, do we allocate extra time or money to fix this debt? Or do we consciously accept the lower quality and the higher future risk? It's a deviation that requires escalation.
That link is so important for the exam. Technical debt exceeding tolerance equals an exception report. Okay, let's touch on another key technique, testing. Agile is all about continuous quality checks.
Absolutely. The whole goal is to test early and test continuously. It's a test first or check first mindset. We don't wait until the end of an iteration. We rely on techniques like early user testing with prototypes, then more formal alpha testing with target groups, beta testing in an early market setting, even A/B testing to refine features with real data. Quality isn't a phase, it's a constant process.
Right. Now we can move to that final strategic layer, analyzing effective tailoring. This is assessment criteria 2.1.9, the big analysis and judgment step. How do we determine if our approach is actually effective?
It really comes down to smart documentation and managed flexibility. Take the idea of documenting alternative procedures. We saw in the source material that sometimes you might have a contractor like that design agency, Brightpulse, and they have their own specific proven methods for design and testing that they know lead to success.
So as the project manager, I might actually prefer their high-quality process over forcing them to adopt my standard Prince2 procedure. But how do I maintain governance while still using their expertise?
You document the alternative. A truly effective quality approach allows for these alternative procedures to be used if they're proven to be better. The critical governance rule, though, is that the use of any alternative procedure must be formally documented as part of the tailoring decisions in the project initiation documentation, the PAD.
Yes, so you get the expertise, but the project board knows what's happening and signs off on it.
Yes, and that leads right into the balance of control, the difference between empowering the team and knowing when to escalate.
Okay, walk us through that. What can the team do and what requires formal escalation?
Teams have to be empowered to resolve minor defects at the delivery level. If a security check fails and they fix it without impacting dates or scope, that's handled within the team, informally. However, Any change that impacts the agreed project, baseline like changing a must-have requirement or altering the acceptance criteria for a major product, that's a baseline deviation.
That's a significant quality change.
It is, and it must be escalated to the appropriate management level for a formal decision. So, empowerment for the details, but tight control over the baseline.
And that framework of control is demonstrated perfectly by using fixed versus flex tolerances, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, for instance, sometimes a specific non-functional requirement, like high-level data security or maybe sustainability criteria, is defined as a fixed tolerance. This sets a non-negotiable minimum quality standard.
Okay, so if that fixed tolerance exists and we have to choose between delivering a should-have scope item or violating that fixed sustainability standard, say, by using a cheaper supplier who doesn't meet the ethical criteria, what happens?
The quality standard wins, full stop. You have to prioritize adherence to that fixed quality tolerance, even if it means you have to flex or drop the should have or could have scope items. Fixed tolerances are the absolute floor of what's acceptable.
That is a brilliant strategic overview. So we've covered the team gatekeeper's door in DoD, ensuring quality input and output. We've analyzed prioritization with Moscow as the mechanism for scope flexibility. We've navigated the formal checks, distinguishing the quality register from the product register. And we hit those high-stakes techniques like managing technical debt and analyzing effective tailoring.
And remember, this is a central truth for your exam prep. Effective quality in PRINCE2 Agile is all about managed tension. It's knowing what you can delegate to the delivery, team-like informal defect resolution, and what requires documentation, baseline control, and escalation.
So what does this all mean for your ability to lead a successful, high-quality project now that you have these strategic insights?
Well, if the core promise of agile quality is all about continuous learning and adaptation, consider this. Let's say your project learns a critical lesson. A security audit finds a massive failure. It results in a costly shutdown. What proactive steps should you implement post project to mandate that specific failure lesson becomes a non negotiable input for defining the next project's definition of ready? How do you ensure the lessons from past technical debt and critical failures automatically harden the quality criteria for all future work? That's the real difference between just documenting history and actively designing a more robust future.